All right, welcome to the Wolfden. Now, this is public streaming, so I apologize if it's a little bumpy. Perfectly named bumpers for this bumpy ride. So we're going to go over the core components of the Wolfden. This should probably be the very first thing anybody watches because it's what we call underpinnings, right? Which means if all else fails, there's a hierarchy of suggestions, advice, and moves. When all else fails, this is the foundation. Okay, and let me break down what bumpers is. Now, it's a version of my book, which you do not have to buy. I just bought like 20 copies last year for somebody. It's my book, and the core is we need to learn to appreciate when bad things do not happen. Okay, so this is all. It's my methodology everywhere, carried over into crypto. It is the foundation of everything that we talk about and we teach and we share. And so you're always thinking bumpers, okay? And when you think bumpers, you're thinking a few things. First of all, you have to know this is not financial advice. Do not follow it blindly. I'm sharing what I'm doing. I'm sharing my beliefs. Our team is sharing our beliefs. Use your own discretion. Use your own discernment. Be a responsible human. Do not abdicate responsibility to anybody else. Understand what you're doing. Don't FOMO. Don't rush. Put up your bumpers. I'm going to explain how to put up your bumpers in just a moment. But again, Charlie Munger, brilliant thinker, says, all I want to know is where I'm going to die so that I can avoid going there. That is like the crux of being successful as an investor, especially a crypto investor. If you can avoid bad things, the asymmetry is so high to the upside, right? There's so much upside that if you just avoid bad things, you will end up with results that a year ago may have seemed impossible. There's an unimaginable upside. In theory, this is the easiest game in the world. Easiest game in the world relative to any other game that's ever been invented that we've been able to play in. So why do so many people still lose? You can get 20% on your dollar in Anchor Protocol. 20%. You can outperform the stock market in multiples. Unimaginable. And yet, so many people still lose. We're going to talk about how people lose because, again, the upside is so great that if you do not lose, you will come out better than had you never been in crypto in the first place. Okay? Here's the underpinnings of bad things. All right? Bumpers is staying out of the gutter, avoiding bad things. We need to give a value to avoiding bad things, which we're not really good at doing as humans, right? Like we celebrate, rightfully so, we will celebrate a friend or a family member that gets out of rehab, right? They worked hard for it, and it was probably a long journey for them. And we celebrate them, but we never celebrate our friends and our family that never went to rehab in the first place, which means, and I mean, this is over and over, we celebrate our friends and family that lost 100 pounds and got off their diabetic medicine, right? And rightfully so, they deserve it. But we never celebrate our friends and family, our spouses, our children that never got to be overweight in the first place. So all through society, it's layered on. We incentivize when somebody digs out of a hole. We do not incentivize for never digging the hole in the first place. So our brains are not wired to avoid bad things. They're wired to recover from bad things, but not avoid them. So if we're going to be successful in this space, we need to rewire our brains to appreciate when bad things do not happen. Here are the 5 main reasons bad things happen. And these are the things we're going to keep coming back to. Me, my team, other members are going to keep pushing back at these things. Okay. The first is the intractable problem. Now you have problems that are not solvable. You're changing all the variables. You're trying to figure out what to do, but you're working with an unsolvable problem. There is actually no way to help you because you're presenting a problem that cannot be solved. I'll explain that in a minute. Fomo Urgency. You're rushing. You feel behind. You have an amazing opportunity to do the unthinkable, and you're going to blow it up because you want to do more than the unthinkable. Okay, so Fomo Urgency. Micro strategies diametrically opposed to macro beliefs. Let's just say beliefs. That's violating your own economic and personal principles. You all do it all the time. I'll give you examples in a minute. Frequency of exposure. You look at data too much. More data is not better. Ton of research on that. I'll give you some examples in a later video. An asymmetric risk, and the asymmetry is in the wrong direction. There's more downside than upside. The only way to know for sure if there's more downside than upside is to have a tractable problem, a problem that can be solved, right? So we circle right back to, if we have a solvable problem, we can actually knock all of these 5 things off. We can avoid bad things. We can put our bumpers up and we can stay out of the gutter. That's all you need to do in crypto. Don't blow yourself up. Stay in the game long enough to recognize the inevitable upside. If you believe in crypto, if you do not believe in the long-term the sustainability of crypto and the tech, then I don't understand why you're playing in crypto, right? That would be a macro strategy diametrically opposed to macro belief. So if you do not believe in crypto, but you're heavy in it, you are deploying a micro strategy that is diametrically opposed to a macro belief of yours. You are violating rule number 3 just by being in crypto and not believing in it. Right? That's how you get wrecked. Let's go through these. The intractable problem. All the intractable problem is more than likely you are solving for more. Right? You want more stuff, and I'm going to do a video for each one, as well as a Medium article. So we're not going to go super deep into each one right now. Just a few things to keep top of mind. What are you solving for? You're going to get asked that all the time. So if you go, oh well, I think Floki can do another 10x. What are you solving for? Right? Floki to another 10x has nothing to do with any solvable problem. It's just more. You don't know when to divest. You don't know when to flip into lower risk. You just don't know how to inform behavior. So first problem is people do not have a solvable problem. A solvable problem would be, I need an extra $5 million in the next 9 years. I have this much I can put in. What is the fastest, most efficient, safest way to close the gap, to reach that goal in that timeline? That's a solvable problem. So you can say, but Floki can go 10x more. And I could say to you, well, you've actually already closed the gap. So if you just sell your Floki, you're there. Right? And if you don't, then you have a micro strategy diametrically opposed to a macro belief. Your macro belief was, I need 5 million in 7 years or whatever. And you are not behaving in a way to lock that in. You're violating number 3. Right? So if you have number 1, you can tell when you're violating number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you do not have a solvable problem, you got to figure that out first. We do teach that. We have an app for it. There's tools for it. You got to know what you're trying to fund. Otherwise, the only way to find out how fast and how far you can run is to run as fast as you can, as far as you can, until you keel over and die. So the only way to find out how much you can make, how fast, is to push until you blow up. It's the only way to find that. Right? Much rather find out, how do I get everything I want in life? These are the things that I want. This is how much they cost. This is the timeline I need them. You can solve for that. Hey, Fomo Urgency. This one's obvious. Here's the tip. We have plenty of time. Time is on our side. We are very early. You are never in a rush. You will make more mistakes being in a rush than you will ever make by being early. Right? You'll make more mistakes. There's more downside to rushing than there will ever be in getting upside and getting there early right now. So if you are FOMOing and you feel urgency, guess what? You are violating, you're putting risk to the downside. You're violating rule number 5, right? So here's the rule in the Wolfden. If you're not in the Wolfden, do whatever you want. If you're in the Wolfden, here's the suggestion. If you ever feel urgency, like you're trying to rush and you're a little flustered and you can't find where your wallet is or switch networks, and you feel that urgency inside of you, stop. Just stop and walk away. There's nothing in crypto that is that important, and there's nothing happening today that there won't be 10 more of tomorrow. You feel urgency, stop and walk away. If you're in a pre-sale and you try to push a transaction through and it fails, don't try to push another one through. Stop and walk away. Okay? If you get wrecked from urgency, our support is not there for people that violate our rules. These rules are to help you. We will help you a million different ways avoid digging a hole. Do not dig your own hole and then expect other people in the community to spend their time and resources to dig you out. That is not how we win together. We don't everybody dig a bunch of holes and then everybody help each other out and celebrate that we're in the same freaking place we started. It's not the point. Hey, a micro strategy versus a macro strategy. This is a micro strategy diametrically opposed to your macro beliefs. Again, I'll do another video, but here's the thing. You cannot take actions in the short term that are diametrically opposed to what you say your beliefs are. For example, if you believe you want as much Bitcoin as possible, selling Bitcoin is a micro strategy diametrically opposed to your macro belief. Even if you're selling Bitcoin to get more Bitcoin, it's most likely going to wreck you. The people that buy Bitcoin and hold it have more Bitcoin than people that try to trade it. People lose more Bitcoin trading it than they often almost come out worse off, okay? So another example is if you say what I really want most, my macro belief is I want as much time with my kids as possible, and your strategy is to spend more hours at the office to make more money so that someday you could spend more time with your kids, that's a micro strategy diametrically opposed to macro belief. You are spending less time with your kids in order to spend more time with your kids. This is how people get wrecked in crypto all the time. I'm trying to maximize my US dollar value, right? Like they're looking at the UI and they're trying to do all this APY stuff and they're going, ooh, $500 a day, $600 tomorrow. And then they also claim that they hate the US dollar and they measure everything in Bitcoin. Well, if day to day you're measuring everything in US dollar and your macro belief is acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, every day you are acting in a way that is diametrically opposed to what you say that you want. Either be honest about what you want or fix your behavior. Do not have them fighting each other 24/7. You're going to wreck yourself. So if you go, yeah, I want as much Guardian as possible. That's really my belief. That's what I want. I totally understand it. I want a big base case. And then you come back and you say, hey, you think I should sell some of these base case assets just for a minute so I can do this other thing and then I'll buy them back? That's a micro strategy diametrically opposed to your macro belief, right? And I'm sharing this with you so we share a language as the den. Now, I'll do in-depth videos about each one of these. A frequency of exposure. I don't need to go into this. We already have articles and videos about it. If you think more data is better, you do not know yourself. You do not know yourself. If a loss feels good, if a loss feels worse than an equivalent gain feels good, which it does, there is a plenty of research around this, right? Loss aversion. Making $100 does not feel as good as losing $100 feels bad. So on paper, you can break even. You can gain 100, lose 100, gain 100, lose 100, gain 100, lose 100, gain 100, lose 100. At the end of the day, you're break even, but you're at a huge emotional deficit. You're actually taking a massive loss emotionally. You will feel like you're losing. You will make decisions that do not make sense. Again, I have a lot of content around this. If you think looking at charts more often or measuring data more often makes better decisions, you can read the book Predictably Irrational. That's a good place to start. System 1, System 2 Thinking by Daniel Kahneman is another place to look. More often, frequency of exposure to data, a higher frequency of exposure, people make worse decisions. You stare at data all day long. I don't want to hear about it. We don't want to hear about it. Right? There's an appropriate frequency of exposure, and it's not as often as possible ever. And you got asymmetric risk to the wrong side. Asymmetric risk to the wrong side. This can look different for everybody, okay? But we need to keep the asymmetric risk to the upside, which means a moonshot. People talk about moonshots all the time, and they want to ape in. It defeats the purpose of a moonshot. The benefit of a moonshot, the way that it fits in a system, is that it can go 1,000x, which means you don't need a ton of money to make a ton of money. So if you put a ton of money, like your savings, into a moonshot, you've actually eliminated the asymmetry to the upside, because the upside was low risk, still high potential. What you did was you made it high risk by putting your life savings in there. So it's high risk, high potential. You eliminated the direction of the asymmetry, which is silly. Okay? So we've got to keep asymmetric risk to the upside. We don't want neutral. That defeats the purpose. And we certainly don't want to the downside. If you need $1 million by the end of the year to fund something really important to you, and you're in Dogecoin and it's running like crazy, right? The risk may be to the upside, but as soon as you have $1 million of Dogecoin, so you have now locked in the thing that you want, every minute you stay in Dogecoin longer than that, you are actually shifting the risk to the downside. Every minute you stay in increases the probability that you don't get what you want, because it can always go down, right? So what is asymmetric risk to the upside to one person can be asymmetric risk to the downside for another. It goes back to, what are you trying to accomplish? That's why we have to have a solvable problem. Right? Hope that makes sense. Those are the rules. Them's the rules right there. Gotta have a solvable problem. If you don't, bad things are going to happen. You got to avoid Fomo Urgency. If you don't, bad things are going to happen. You have to have micro strategies that are aligned with your macro beliefs. If you don't, bad things are going to happen. You have to limit your frequency of exposure. If you don't, bad things are going to happen. And you got to keep asymmetric risk to the right side, and that looks different for everybody. Sometimes it's obvious. So anybody putting their life savings into a moonshot has removed the asymmetry to the risk. Doesn't mean it won't work. It just means it's a stupid bet. Like, playing, if somebody said, I'll give you $1 million if you play this game, you got a 1 in 6 chance of winning. It costs you $2 to play, 1 in 6 chance, $1 million reward. A whole bunch of people would go, oh yeah, the math checks out. But if that game is Russian roulette, it's still a stupid game to play, right? So you got to think on multiple dimensions, or you'll wreck yourself. But these are the 5 rules. I'll make a video for each one. That will be only inside the Wolfden and won't be public. Some of these might be powerful enough that I keep them public, but the core of it, primary chunk of it, is going to be in the Wolfden only. And these are the things we come back to. When all else fails, we need to know, there's so many options. I'm so overwhelmed. What should I do? What's your solvable problem? And oh yeah, I get it. Now I got to do it right now. I got to hurry. Slow down. Right? These are the things we keep coming back to. If you avoid bad things, like Charlie Munger, who is a great investor, just want to know where I'm going to die so I can avoid going there. If we can recognize these 5 things in ourselves, we can avoid going there. That is the core of how you win in a space with so much asymmetry built into the upside. You recognize these 5 things, you avoid these 5 things. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Okay, hope that's helpful. We'll see you in the next video. I'll do a video on the intractable problem, and then we'll just knock these out one by one inside the Wolfden. It'll take me probably a week or 2 to get them done, because I got to make all those examples and stuff. If you're not in the Wolfden, you can check out the links in the video. You go to wolfdencrypto.com. You can check it out. Click the join button. It'll look like this. Right up here, that join button, it'll take you to Medium article, and it will tell you